Last night, I saw one of the best tweets of my life that Donald Trump had announced Kash Patel, director of the FBI, had chosen as his deputy Dan Bongino. I was freaking out. The best tweet I'd ever seen. Amazing news, of course, and it's been an absolutely tremendous weekend for me and for everybody else. But let's just say, wow. I'll get you started with the news first because I don't want to make everything about myself, obviously. But Dan Bongino is an American patriot and hero who inspires me tremendously. And he's going to have his show live at 11 this morning. We don't know exactly what he's going to do with his show, but it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, podcast in the world with a tremendous, massive live audience. And I just want to say this. I trust Dan Bongino in the FBI working alongside Kash Patel to bring about accountability to this country. I believe he is, as a former police officer and Secret Service agent, deeply experienced and aware of how the system is operating. His research and commentary and insight into public events and everything we've seen over the past several years, not only has it been informative and important to the American people, but I think it lends him a certain degree of experience combined with his law enforcement background as well as his knowledge of these issues. I think there may be no better person for this role. I want to stress this. While we can all expect great accountability with Dan Bongino and Kash Patel at the head of the FBI, Dan Bongino has made a tremendous, tremendous personal sacrifice, which leaves me deeply inspired. American honor is back. I hope you all understand. And I'll talk a little bit more about this as we get into the live show. Dan Bongino, with the size of his audience, with the size of his show, is walking away from hundreds of millions of dollars so he can take a government job that pays a couple $100,000. I am inspired. You know, there's a lot more to life than having money and being able to buy nice things. And I think that Dan and I share some of this sentiment, as most of you do. But I believe Dan to be likely the best of us in this regard, because I don't know if I could walk away from that. I mean, you know, when they were talking about Dan maybe taking up a government position, I said, how's that guy going to walk away from tens of millions of dollars every year, plus all the back end side contracts merch the dude's probably making? He's on track to be a billionaire. Come on. Why would he walk away from this enterprise to work for a government job if his duty mattered to him more? And I think when the president comes a knocking and says, Dan, you're the only man for the job, Dan said, there's more to life than being rich. Now, don't get me wrong, Dan's going to be rich for a long time. He's rich already, right? But to sit there and look at the power you have with a voice so large, I'm reminded of this line from Justice League. Bear with me. I know it's a cartoon. It's for kids, a comic. Lex Luthor. You know, he is Superman's nemesis. He's just a corporate businessman, but he's self-interested. There's an arc in the comics and cartoon where he runs for president. And when questioned, he says, you actually think I want to be president? Do you have any idea how much power I would have to give up to be president? It's remarkable if you think about it. Dan Bongino wasn't just looking at wealth, success, and all that comes along with it. Dan is giving up a substantial amount of power to be a servant to this nation, and I am deeply inspired by that. So, Dan, tremendous shout-outs. I am so inspired and excited and optimistic. This is absolutely incredible. And, of course, my friends, the deep state is panicking. They are really losing it over this one. Okay, look, when Trump announced Matt Gaetz as AG, I went out and bought champagne. I'm like, let's roll. And, you know, Matt didn't make it. We then heard Kash Patel would be nominated for FBI director. And we didn't buy champagne. But Kash, he's a friend of the show. He's been on several times. And he's fairly moderate on these issues. He's not an extremist by any means. I believe he's going to bring back law enforcement accountability to the FBI. We were very, very excited for this. And when he got confirmed, we were celebrating. We were cheering. I was celebrating something else, which I'll get to in a second. But tremendous. But Dan Bongino, with all due respect to Kash Patel, a lot of people had been entertaining the idea that Trump's master play was, how can I get the most brutal guy, like to the deep state, in the FBI? If Trump had nominated Dan Bongino to the FBI, there's no way he's getting confirmed. But Kash Patel, with tremendous experience, was going to squeak by. And we trust and believe in Kash. Kash then turns around and says, all right, Dan, you're up. And now it's on, baby, because Dan Bongino is the man. This is so amazing. Look, Kash is fairly moderate, and I respect it. And he wants to bring back law enforcement. Dan Bongino is a nuclear bomb on the deep state. Yo, this ain't a shot across the bow. This is Trump saying the deep state is done. Dan ain't messing around. He's already got on his Rumble page for his 11 a.m. show, it says playtime is over. So it's going to get wild, my friends. Now, all that being said, you know, I mentioned last month has been the best month of Trump's first month is the best month of my life. And I get all these liberals being like, what has Trump even done that's been so good? And I was like, I got married. Like, I didn't say Trump did anything. I said, he's having a great month. I'm having a great month. And then as some of you may know, Thursday morning, I awoke to the baby is coming. And we rushed to the hospital, and the baby is here. So my first child was born. Thank you all so much for your messages of congratulations. It was truly a profound and amazing experience. And so she's a few days old now. And it has been absolutely a pleasure. And I got to tell you, people are like, oh, man, you're going to be in for it. Oh, you know, it's a great experience, but she's going to keep you up. Keep me up. Who wants to go to sleep when their first child is born? I mean, geez, it's like one of the most amazing experiences. So here I am, you know, in the hospital with my child being born for the first time. Truly, truly amazing, indescribable, and just a powerful feeling you get, you know. And then Kash Patel gets confirmed, and then I come home, and then Dan Bongino. I'm just like, how is it so good? How is so many good things happening? This is really, really incredible. And I guess the only advice I could give to anybody else, as obviously I am, this is my first child, and I'm going to be 39 in a week and a half. Don't wait. You know, for us, we wanted to have a kid much earlier, but we were consumed by work. And we had said, like, we're going to have a kid, like, it'll happen, right? We really had to make it happen. It wasn't for some people. It just happens. For us, we were like, we had to make that decision and plan. And you know, if we didn't take the time and stop and say we're having this kid, you know, and we want to have more, who knows? You know, who knows? So I would just say, don't wait. You know, have your family if you can, and truly amazing. Exciting weekend for me. I wasn't here Thursday and Friday. I had pre-recorded segments up for Friday, so, you know, shout out to everybody who watched those. And shout out to Phil for filling in once again while I was out. But I am back, and we're having a lot of fun, and we're very excited. And, you know, that's all I can really say. Let's read the news on Dan Bongino and talk a bit more about what we're currently seeing and what this means for Dan, for his business, for Rumble. Rumble's released a statement. Before we get started, of course, head over to castbrew.com. Join the Cast Brew Coffee Club. You get a little bit of a discount when you join the coffee club. It's $40 for, I think it's 3 bags, so you save a bit of money. And it mixes things up. You know, you get a little bit of everything. Of course, there's always 2 weeks till Christmas. That's Phil Labonte dressed like Santa Claus. And then we've got Alex Stein's Primetime Grind, 2 times caffeine. Now, if this... Shout out to Alex Stein. If you're looking for that extra kick, drink responsibly. 2 times caffeine ain't no joke, okay? You've been warned. Appalachian Nights, Rise with Roberto Jr. and Stand Your Grounds. It was really funny because we have Focus with we had Mr. Boca's Pumpkin Spice Experience, which is no more. We have Rise with Roberto Jr. And Roberto Jr., our rooster, died, and Mr. Boca's passed. And everyone was like, geez, Tim, every time you make a signature blend, the person dies. And then we launched Alex Stein's Primetime Grind. And people were like, Tim, no, what are you doing? And then Alex ended up in the hospital. So people are like, it's a curse. No, Alex is fine, though. And we still have a Mr. Bocas. We have Focus with Mr. Bocas. Ian's Graphene Dream selling like hotcakes, just selling like crazy. And he's got K-Cups on the way. Also, head over to rumble.com/TimcastIRL. Check out the Green Room podcast. It's basically our pre-show setup with me, the gang. Chuck has been hanging out, if you guys know Chuck. Interviews. These are very much straightforward interviews of the subjects, which we weren't really getting. That was the thing. We have these great guests, and people often think that Timcast IRL is a sit-down interview show like Rogan. It's not. Timcast IRL is a topical news show where our guests join in the commentary. So at the Green Room, you're getting more of a deep dive on the individual personality behind the scenes. Check that one out. And of course, rumble.com/Bongino. When we wrap up this live stream, my friend, and I know all of you are sitting there waiting with bated breath for Dan's cutesy time is over. That's what it says. Yo, Dan has been named Deputy Director of the FBI. Cutesy time is over. Oh, man. I cannot be more excited. Woo, for anything news related. I'm actually much more excited to go hang out with my kid, but that's a totally different thing. Got a lot of big plans for you, little Missy. Yeah, so my daughter, she's gonna be a little ninja rocket scientist, skateboard musician, skiing, all the good stuff, playing chess. We'll see how it goes. But maybe she'll watch this episode one day in the future as some kind of archive. But in terms of news and politics, Dan Bongino is a nuclear bomb on the deep state. So, of course, rumble.com/Bongino, because he's going to be doing his show this morning at 11 a.m. for those that are watching live. So that's coming up in 50 minutes. So when we're wrapping this, we're going to hand it off. You guys got to go check out what he's got to say because I'm going to be watching. But let's jump into the big story. Time Magazine, I think, handled it okay with their headline. Trump taps Dan Bongino, Secret Service agent turned MAGA pundit for FBI director. Yeah, Secret Service agent turned MAGA pundit. That's all right. Wait to see some of the other articles, how they write about him. Time says, President Trump announced the appointment Sunday night in a post on his Truth Social platform. Praising Bongino as a man of incredible love and passion for our country, he called the announcement great news for law enforcement and American justice. The selection places two staunch Trump allies atop the nation's premier federal law enforcement agency at a time when Democrats are concerned the president could seek to target his adversaries. Bongino would serve under Kash Patel, who was sworn in as FBI director of the White House on Friday, and who has signaled his intent to reshape the bureau, including by relocating hundreds of employees from its Washington headquarters and placing greater emphasis on the FBI's traditional crime-fighting duties. I'm all down for it. The deputy director serves as the FBI's second in command and is traditionally a career agent responsible for the bureau's day-to-day law enforcement operations. Bongino, 49, served on the presidential details for then-Presidents Barack Obama, George W. Bush, before becoming a popular right-wing figure. He became one of the leading personalities in the MAGA political movement to spread false information about the 2020 election. Oh, really? Well, y'all best watch yourselves, because as deputy director of the FBI, I have to imagine Dan Bongino is going to want to be vindicated, as it were. He's going to want to figure out whether or not he has been deceived. And you know what? With access to these informations and to this information, law enforcement capabilities, I'm interested to see what Dan Bongino finds. They say for a few years following Rush Limbaugh's death in 2021, he was chosen for a radio show in the same time slot as the famous commentator. Bongino worked for the New York Police Department from 97 to 99 before joining the Secret Service. He began doing commentary on Fox News more than a decade ago and had a Saturday night show with the network from 21 to 23. He is now the host of the Dan Bongino Show, one of the most popular podcasts according to Spotify. Indeed. Dan consistently averages the largest live viewership every day in the world. Amazing. During an interview last fall, Bongino asked Trump to commit to forming a commission to reform the Secret Service, calling it a failed agency and criticizing it for the 2 assassination attempts last year. That guy should have been nowhere near you, Bongino said about the man, who authorities say camped outside Trump's golf course in West Palm Beach before he was spotted with a rifle. During the same interview, Trump praised the Secret Service agent who saw the rifle's barrel coming out of the bush. Indeed. So not the worst article, but let's see what we got here. Dan Bongino posted this. Thank you, Mr. President, Attorney General Bondi, and Director Patel. And it is the image of Trump's Truth Social post saying, great news for law enforcement and American justice. Dan Bongino, a man of incredible love and passion for our country, has just been named the next deputy director of the FBI by the man who will be the best ever director, Kash Patel. Dan has a master's degree in psychology from CUNY, an MBA from Penn State. He was a member of the New York Police Department, New York's finest, a highly respected special agent with the United States Secret Service, and is now one of the most successful podcasters in the country, something he is willing and prepared to give up in order to serve. Working with our great new United States Attorney General Pam Bondi and Director Patel, fairness, justice, law and order will be brought back to America and quickly. Congratulations, Dan. I'm going to say it again. I know I opened the show by saying this, but Dan, you are a gentleman and a scholar, and you embody American honor better than I can say most people do. One of the best. And the reason I don't say the best, only one, because we do have other tremendous people as well with Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. But let me say, a society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit beneath. It's an old Greek proverb, I believe, and we all understand it. It's been paraphrased many, many times. A society grows great when trees are planted who, are the people know they'll never sit beneath them, et cetera, et cetera. Dan Bongino. Let me tell you, my friends, I work in the podcasting industry, if you haven't noticed. We have this morning show is usually in the top 30 or so. I think we were at number 20 biggest live show last week, the morning show. Timcast IRL was probably around like 7 or 8 ranked. Things are changing. We averaged the biggest live primetime viewership on YouTube for the United States for a while, for a while. But as more and more people jump in, we're not the biggest. More and more personalities with bigger followings are starting to pick up the live game, and it is what it is. But let me just say this: with my experience, I can only tell you, I can only speculate. I don't know. Dan Bongino, I want you to ask yourself this question, my friends. Because I don't know how much money Dan Bongino makes, but anybody working in the industry can guess. I don't know, 10, 20, $30 million a year maybe, with the show as big as his. So whatever that number may be, I don't know how he runs it, I don't know how his ad sales go. I'd ballpark it, 20 million. If someone came to you and said, you can have $20 million, fame, just fame and wealth and everything comes along with it. You're your own boss. You do what you want to do. Or you can be a high-ranking civil servant making $200,000 a year. You know what most people are going to say. Overwhelming majority of people are going to say, thanks for the opportunity, but I got this thing going. Can't do it. I mean, Dan is a celebrity. You got to understand this, guys. What does it mean to be a platinum artist? A platinum musician. We know what that means, right? You're like Lady Gaga, multi-platinum. So I believe to get platinum, you need like 75 million views. No, I think it might be like 150 million streams. 150 million. That's platinum. And some people are double platinum. They have 2 songs that have cracked over that many sales, 1 million in sales, or I think it's 150 million streams on social media. Dan is the equivalent in news, culture, and politics to a multi-platinum rock star. Every morning when Dan goes live, he fills up 3 or 4 arenas worths of people to watch his show. I think people need to understand how big Dan Bongino is. Imagine being one of the biggest you could possibly be, surrounded by opportunity, wealth, access, and influence, and then the president taps you on the shoulder and says, the time has come to serve your nation and give all of this up. And Dan said, without question. I am so inspired by that, because how many people could truly walk away from everything that comes with that? A lot of people talked about, could Tucker Carlson be a VP? Could he serve in government? And it's like, come on, nobody expects Tucker to walk away from one of the biggest shows in the world to go be a civil servant. Nobody believed it could happen. So when I saw this, the first thing I said was, first of all, this is one of the best choices ever. Dan is going to be a hammer of justice along with Kash Patel. But I look over to my friends and family. I'm like, I can't believe he walked away from all of that money and wealth. You have to be a man of iron will, honor, loyalty, integrity, a true warrior. I can't say enough good things about this guy. I want you to seriously look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself if you could walk away from not just $20 million, and I'm ballparking, so I don't know for sure, but I'm saying, imagine someone said $20 million a year for the next 20 years, your family will want for nothing. You will own whatever you want. You have boats, you have yachts, you have private jets. It's all yours. Just don't be a civil servant saving your nation. And Dan said, I would rather save my country than take the wealth, fame, celebrity, etc. And I'm just like, you know what, man? There are so many people who are the opposite of that. And that's why to see this now is so deeply inspirational. Because I'm not even half a man of Dan Bongino is. To do what he's doing, I don't know that I have the strength to do that. But I have all of this stuff. I built all of this stuff. I know, man, people have asked me what I run for office. I'm like, I'm not getting anywhere near that. We have people in office who they make $200,000 a year and they're worth $200 million. And you're like, how is it possible that homie was worth $200,000 before he got in office and now is worth $50 million? How is it that Barack Obama, that the Bidens are broke? They get in office, they're richer than rich can be. And then you get Donald Trump. He enters as a billionaire, his net worth declines. And you get Dan Bongino, who is one of the biggest shows in the world. He does like 150 to 170,000 concurrent viewers on his show. Okay? If we're talking about stadiums with 30 to 40,000 people, he's filling up maybe 4 stadiums every day. One of the biggest shows out there. In a decentralized era where these major news like MSNBC can't even muster up 60,000 views in total, there's Dan. And he's like, I don't need it. He's going to walk away from all of it to fight for his country. It's American honor returning. So many individuals who have no reason. And this is what the crazy thing is. I tell you, Democrats are like, they're gutting the country and they're stealing your tax money. It's like, you think Elon Musk, the richest guy in the world with 13 kids, needs to steal your money? It's ludicrous. The dude is the richest man in the world. He's worth $400 billion. The dude literally is building rocket ships to go to Mars. I don't know what else he could possibly want that he cannot get already. I mean, could you imagine being rich and being like, I have a yacht. I have a private plane. Elon's like, I have several reusable rocket ships that can go to Mars. And you're like, oh, Elon wants things that haven't been invented yet. So it's remarkable. What we're seeing is passion, and a mission-driven element to civil service that we haven't seen in a long time. Here's the New York Times, ladies and gentlemen. Right-wing commentator named FBI deputy director. Don't you just love it? How about you say former special agent with the Secret Service and NYPD officer named deputy director? How about that? They don't want to give him that one. Time magazine did. Other outlets mention, and I think it's fine to say that he's a special agent with the Secret Service, NYPD officer turned right-wing or conservative commentator. That's absolutely fair. But to say right-wing commentator principally, to remove the fact that this man has extensive experience in law enforcement and protecting presidents, it's remarkable that they lead with this and they exclude the rest. Same thing with Pete Hegseth. The man served, 2 tours or more? Pete Hegseth is a decorated combat veteran who works in nonprofits aiding other veterans, helping them out. With extensive experience, he was nominated for Secretary of Defense, and they claimed Fox News host. That's his job out of the military. Why don't you mention that Trump sees in these guys the experience in law enforcement and military to do the job? No. They want career politicians. They want bureaucrats. And Trump is putting real people in. I'm largely at a loss for words, to be completely honest. Like, how do you describe the epitome, the absolute apex of accountability that is Dan Bongino and Kash Patel leading the FBI? It's funny because I see these liberals calling it a clown car. Oh, it's a clown car. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Heaven forbid regular American people are actually in charge of this show like it was always supposed to be. No, they want military-industrial complex politicians and bureaucrats. Trump saying, let's bring in some real people. Let's bring in the American people. And that includes Elon Musk, an immigrant, now American citizen. That includes Dan Bongino, a cop. Kash Patel, child of immigrants. Oh, boy. You got to love it, don't you? The Democrats screamed white supremacy. And then Trump's like, let's have Kash Patel, who was sworn in on the Gita, I believe it's called. And I saw some people ragging on it. Get out of here, dude. There are some conservatives being like, you should not be allowed to be sworn in on anything but the Bible, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, you got to understand. Trump's the real deal. They tried to claim he was a white supremacist, and here he is with Kash Patel. I don't know a lot about his religion, so I don't want to speak out of turn. But I believe he was sworn in, not on the Bible, but on the Gita. Is that what it's called? Forgive me if I'm getting this wrong. Let me make sure. Yeah, the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita. It's Hindu scripture, and let me just triple check this one, because Kash Patel takes the oath of office on Bhagavad Gita. Amazing. I'm totally for it. I got to be honest. I'm much more of a Christian moral tradition kind of guy, despite not being a Christian. I believe the American moral tradition is rooted in Christian ethics, as I explained quite a bit. But Trump's the real deal. They tried claiming that he was a racist. There's a white nationalist, white supremacist, Christian nationalist, all these other things. And here Trump is being like, I just want honorable people who are going to help this nation, secure this nation, and bring us accountability. And they are so mad about it. The New York Times writes, the choice of Dan Bongino is a radical departure from the Bureau's history of having a veteran agent serve in the key role that oversees operations. And you know what? I don't care. John Rich, shout out, says, based on the personnel DJT has put in place, you know what's about to happen. Massive disclosure. Patel, Bongino, Bondi, RFK Jr., Tulsi, Hegseth, this team is beyond what I thought would ever happen. I think we're actually about to be read in on the truth across all sectors. I feel like it's too good to be true. I'm sitting here thinking, like, when I was driving to D.C., did I get into an accident or something and I went to the good place? You know, because how is it so incredible that all of these great things are happening? It's like for the first time in my life, we have been entrenched in corruption, laziness, dishonor, disloyalty. And is this what it's like to actually have real leadership? It's truly something to behold. Indeed, indeed. So we have this from Rumble, a statement on Dan Bongino being named Deputy Director of the FBI. Grab some water real quick. Actually, it's Spindrift, of course. And this is, I believe, the CEO, Chris Pavlovsky, who has mentioned this. Now, I will stress, recently, Timcast joined the Rumble Network for a premium content available. If you guys go to timcastpremium.com, it will redirect you to Rumble, where you can sign up. If you use promo code TIM10, you will get $10 off your annual membership to all of our behind-the-scenes content. And I have to say, I don't know if this means you will get Dan Bongino behind-the-scenes content, premium content, because the show may be ending. Bongino may be giving up everything to serve his nation. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and guess. I don't have any private information or anything, but I'm going to guess that Dan is likely going to name a successor to run his show in the interim, much like Natalie Winters was running War Room for Bannon when they wrongly locked him up. I believe Dan will likely have a replacement host for the time being to run his show, as he should. Rumble states, Dan Bongino is a pioneer and a free speech warrior, and it has been an honor to host his content on Rumble. More than just that, he has been a mentor to me personally through these important years of Rumble's explosive growth, and he has become a dear friend I will have for life. Dan was one of the first major creators to move his content to Rumble in 2020 and has set many live streaming records ever since. He believes strongly in the innate human right of self-expression. In fact, he's turned it into an art form. And he knows the best antidote to speech you don't like is more speech. We wish Dan all of the success in the world as he goes to work for the people of the United States at the request of President Trump. And I commend the president on his selection. Dan Bongino is the best. The presence of the Dan Bongino Show on Rumble has been instrumental to the rapid growth of the platform, and the new viewers he brought in have positioned Rumble to continue to increase its user base in the years to come. Bongino is a significant shareholder in the company, and Rumble looks forward to his return when the next phase of his service to his country concludes. As a content creator on Rumble, Bongino set new standards for streaming excellence, routinely leading all online live streams in audience size and concurrent viewers, regardless of platform. Given the third-party advertising arrangement related to Bongino's content, the revenue Rumble derived from the content is not material to the company. So I think what they're saying basically is if Dan Bongino is on a different ad sales network, so I don't think that Rumble directly made money off of the ad deals that he was doing. So Rumble revenue is probably going to be fine. I think Rumble really wants to stress that because they're like, hey, look, obviously Dan being the biggest show, with him not doing the show, there's going to be questions of where do those viewers go? And it'll be interesting. But revenue-wise, everything should remain fairly the same. Now, I'm going to stress this. I don't know what Dan's plan is, so we're going to tune in at 11 a.m. I don't know what his plan is for what he's going to do with his show. But I do know there's going to be stadiums full of people who are going to be looking for content to watch. If Dan did have a third-party ad arrangement and those viewers move to other Rumble shows that don't, Rumble revenue may actually skyrocket. Now, it's important to note as well, they mentioned that Dan is a, what do they say? What do they say? The president of Dan Bongino shows Rumble, since Rumble continue over the years. Bongino is a significant shareholder in the company. So if that 170,000 that watch his show every day say, we want to keep watching on Rumble, we want our news, and they go to watch Crowder, because he's live at 11. I'm not live at 11, and that's when Dan's time is. But they could come watch me or anybody else. That could massively increase Rumble's position. And so I just think good news all around. But I'll tell you this. I don't care. I want Rumble to succeed. We need it to succeed because we need to make sure we're safe. We have competition in the marketplace. Dan not only pioneered free speech, but he pioneered parallel economy, which is a financial transaction service after people were getting debanked. This dude has put his money where his mouth is time and time again, leading the charge on what the American people need fighting for freedom. Tremendous respect. So I wish the best for Rumble. I see big news for Rumble coming up. But, we don't know what to expect. Let me pull up this clip for you guys. We'll show you who Dan is. Clint Russell of the Liberty Lockdown podcast says, 6 months ago, Bongino said he would never go back into the government, but he added the caveat that he would only do so if Donald Trump asked him to personally. There comes a time when your country matters more. I never got into this for money and glory. Let's roll.
We've been seeing people float you as the next FBI director. Would you do it?
Would I do it? Only if President Trump personally wanted it. Oh, him, if he wanted it. I've never envisioned myself going back in government again, ever. Like ever, ever, ever. I can't say that enough. Repeating decimal, right? But, there comes a time where I wouldn't even take a salary for this stuff. There comes a time where, your country matters more. And I never got in this stuff for the money or the glory or any crap like that. It just happened. And it's just, I'm honored that people think that. But, I'm kind of flattered. If he called, I'd have to consider anything.
We've been seeing people float you as...
If he called. And so I'd like to stress, as Trump's statement read, he says, he has been named deputy director of the FBI by the man who will be the best director ever, Kash Patel. No, look. Kash, of course, is the director. But Trump asked Dan, he says, Dan, I need you. You got to do it. Kash, here's how I imagine it. One of two ways. Trump says to Kash, I want you in, and I want Dan Bongino. I don't think that's likely the case. The other scenario is that Trump said, Kash, I want you in, and Kash said, we should get Dan Bongino. I need you to ask him. And Trump said, done. Trump obviously knows Dan. But here's the thing. Kash worked with Trump already and a lot of people around Trump. And so he knows both of these men. There is speculation, I will add, that the real play was that Donald Trump knew he was not going to get Dan Bongino confirmed as deputy or as director of the FBI. So how do you get him in? You get someone who will get confirmed, who is not as bad, Kash Patel. And then Kash says, let's bring in Dan. And then Dan is placed right there. Because the deputy director doesn't need to be confirmed. They are chosen by the director. If Trump said, I want Dan Bongino to run the FBI because he knows him, they'd have tossed him out. They'd have said, absolutely not. And so I think Trump's strategized this, not just him, but the people around him. Matt Gaetz throw a cherry bomb, figuratively. Everybody then freaks out. Says, okay, fine, Pam Bondi. Kash Patel then gets roasted, but is still not bad. Not a bad choice. And so Kash Patel was nowhere near as shocking as, say, a Matt Gaetz or a Dan Bongino would have been. Once Kash gets in, Trump knows he can trust Kash, and Kash is going to say, you got it, Mr. President. Dan Bongino is in. Let's go. Oh, you got to love this one. I got to send it to our good friend Ken Delanian. This guy is, he masquerades as a journalist for NBC. But I said, effing seethe. You see how these people expose themselves. Let me read this for you. And then you tell me if this guy's a journalist. Ken Delanian says, traditionally, the deputy FBI director has been a career FBI agent. That is particularly important when the director has no experience at the FBI. Donald Trump tonight announced he is appointing as deputy director Dan Bongino, a former Secret Service agent and prolific conspiracy theorist. He has never spent a day working at the FBI, but he has spent many hours spouting baseless falsehoods about the Bureau, such as that the FBI lied when they said they don't have a suspect in the pipe bombs outside the RNC and DNC on 1/15/21. Current and former FBI officials are appalled and extremely concerned for the national security of the country. You know what's really funny? Ken, why does this current and former FBI are so concerned message read like it came from you? Because it did. You see what he writes? That current and former FBI is being appalled. It's him. He wrote this in such a way where it's like, I'm a journalist, but this guy is wrong. He's never worked here. And huh? Why do you care if he's never worked at the FBI? You're just a journalist. Why would a journalist care about the structure of federal law enforcement? You work for NBC. It's weird, isn't it? Dan Bongino, hear me, because you know you don't need me to say it. But Lord, if you find any connections from these media outlets, their lies, and the federal government, the intel agencies, you expose them. I'm not saying we're going to get any kind of big mockingbird type stuff, but I'm saying if it's there, I hope Dan finds it. Because I got to tell you, when I read this message from Ken Delanian, who is a journalist, NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent based in D.C., and this guy is seething and insulting Dan Bongino. That's not a journalist. Here's a guy who seems to be personally offended at the notion of Dan Bongino being named deputy director. Why? Let me put it this way. I'm a podcaster. And if Donald Trump named, I don't know, Donald Trump decides he's going to name Bob Smith to run the Department of Agriculture, I'd be like, okay. Trump names Bob Smith, I guess. Oh. There's a lot of people Trump has named to various agencies, and I'm just like, oh, okay. I am not personally offended in the least bit. Carolyn Levitt was named as press secretary, right? That at least something is like, well, okay, as a journalist, there's some overlap. But for Ken, who's a reporter, which is an entirely different industry than the FBI, right? Why would he be offended? Now, let me put it this way. If Trump named some, like, scooter kid to head up skateboarding affairs in the federal government, I might be like, why? What is this? Did Trump not take any advice? This is not how you want to handle skateboard affairs. But he's not going to do that. My point is simply this. Ken Delanian's message reeks of him being an FBI agent. I'm not saying he is. I'm saying he is someone who is deeply invested in what the FBI is and doesn't always has. And this message of disdain for Dan Bongino only shows that he is emotionally attached to the structures of federal law enforcement and intelligence. I'm just wondering why it is. Could maybe he be good friends with them? Maybe good friends. Yeah. Makes you wonder about the reporting of all of these people. Billy Boy says, Tim, Kash was the inside guy for Dan. While Dan broke the Russiagate hoax years ago, they already worked great together. Oh, yeah. I'm so excited, man. Woo. Look, I'm just some dude who complains on the internet, right? And what I hope for with this country, what I hope for with the American people is honor and integrity, loyalty. Take a look at this from End Wokeness. FBI Director, Deputy Director, FAFO. You know what that means, right? Here's my advice to all of you guys. We have a decentralized amount of power that rests within us. You can track. You guys can look into this public records. What we want to see now is signs of deep state panic. We've already seen Google searches for fraud and criminal lawyers in the D.C. area. I'm curious. Are high-profile people fleeing the country? Pam Bondi says the Epstein client list is sitting on her desk and she's going through these documents now. A lot of people are like, why wait? Release it. No, I respect it. I respect it. There's a video I watched of Kash Patel. I think, was it Kash? Who was this? They were saying was it Kash? Yeah, I think it was. The JFK documents, the answers that we want, we've largely gotten. And the things that haven't been released aren't related to the questions that are being asked. And you can't say too much because it's classified. But Kat, like, I trust this man. I do. And it's fascinating, too, because we interviewed him. And there were questions about Assange and Snowden. And people are like, it's a bad sign that he wouldn't blanket pardon. I'm like, no, it isn't. I've always said this. Kash is a moderate on these issues. We don't want a zealot. We want a man of honor to uphold the law the way it needs to be done that we trust. The problem is we know we can't trust the existing deep state infrastructure, or the past, I should call it. That is, we knew these people were screwing us over. What I want, because I understand security clearance. I know that Dan and Kash aren't going to be able to come out and be like, here's literally everything happening in the country, because it would compromise our security. I get that. What I want is to know if I can trust this man. And I've met Kash. I don't think that I've ever actually met Dan. I've been on his show before. He's a good dude. We've had Kash on several times, and I've talked about these things. He is a very trustworthy individual. And we've had conversations where I've asked him about things, and he levels with you, man. He really does. And he'll say, I wish I could tell you more. It is classified. There's a reason why it's classified. But trust me, man. And he explains things. He does it in a way that makes you feel like, I should say this, he conveys honor and integrity and sincerity. And so he's a man I can look at and say, I know why this country keeps secrets. I get it. I do want more transparency. Kash and Dan promised that. But they're still going to keep the secrets where they need to for our national security. My issue is, if there are men that I know to be evil and they're keeping secrets, I'm concerned about what the secrets are. If it's men I know to be honorable who would walk away from a multi-million-dollar enterprise fortune, for what? For upholding honor and integrity in law enforcement? That's a man I can trust. It doesn't mean you're going to get what you want always. It doesn't mean that everything they always do will be morally good. Morally good. Let me explain. Yin yang, baby. Within light there is dark. Within dark there is light. That means, have you guys watched Invincible? That show. There's an important line in it where the character Cecil says, or it said to him, you can be the good guy or the man who saves the world. And I think there's something to understand about that. I think it's true even of our existing FBI and CIA. I had a discussion with a guest on Timcast IRL who said, I think there's a lot of patriots in the FBI and the CIA that are trying to do the right thing. I said, I completely agree. But the command structure of these agencies has been corrupted. As clear as January 6th. Everybody can see it. The people who refuse to, they're refusing to see it on purpose. We know that raiding some little old lady's home in Alaska, mistaken identity, was morally wrong and evil. And that's the problem. The people running it, their interests were darkness. And sure, sometimes the FBI raided child abusers and traffickers, but that was the light in the dark. That is evil people saying, let's keep up appearances. What I expect with these guys is there's going to be some dark stuff. You know what I mean? Wet works, as it's called. Our government does bad things sometimes, and we want that minimized. We want good justice, but I fully expect that no man is perfect. I think it's fully reasonable to believe that behind the scenes, the work being done by these men, there will be some bad things, things you would not like to know. And you ask yourself, the world is not made up of fairy tales and comic book villains. And if that is true, then what must a man do to keep his nation safe? He must be honorable, he must maintain his integrity, and he must work towards the will of the people. For too long, the bureaucratic state has had nothing but disdain for the will of the people. What we are seeing now is men of honor and integrity who understand they are not the supreme overlords of this nation and the American people, and they're going to do what is best for the will of the people. But I guess I'm stressing the point that don't be surprised if sooner or later it comes out and it's like, under the FBI, we saw this bad thing happen. And there will be questions to Congress. And we don't need to be the people that say no matter what they do, they're always right. We can say people make mistakes. But the question is, will Dan and Kash be 80% successful in their endeavors with some failures? Or are they going to be 80% failures with some successes? See, the issue is the existing deep state was failure, lies, manipulation, and political weaponization. And sometimes some good things. Okay? Let's get rid of the criminal elements 100%. And let's say they're going to be successful. There will be some mistakes. There will be some questionable activities, and we will hold them to account as we would anybody else. But they will be men of honor and integrity, and I'm here for it, my friends. The media, on the other hand, well, they're losing their minds. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Outside of Dan Bongino, FBI Director Kash Patel to be named ATF chief. That one's fascinating. We were looking at a lot of people we wanted for that job. Brandon Herrera? Let's go. If he did that, I don't know. Patel is set to lead an agency that's been a frequent target of Republicans, including an effort to abolish it altogether. My friends, this is a sign that the ATF will be abolished. Indeed it is. If Kash is the director of the FBI, and he's being named chief of the ATF, Trump has basically already said the ATF will function as a piece of the FBI. Kash Patel is leading both. He was chosen to be director of the FBI. He was confirmed by the Senate, and now he's in command and control of the ATF. That is effectively putting the ATF under the purview of the FBI. This is indicative of Donald Trump shrinking government and reducing agencies. Good. As it's often said, the ATF should be a convenience store and not a government agency. That'd be fantastic. To be honest, Walmart is effectively that convenience store if you're in the right area. Yeah, no joke. The very, very few places where you can buy booze and guns in the same place, and that's Walmart. Not that we're big fans, to be completely honest, but I'll be interested to see how this one plays out. Maybe this is as far as it goes. Maybe Trump just says, we don't want more bureaucracy. And Trump knows that he can count on Kash, and Kash is a loyal and honorable man. And so when Trump says, I want these things done, Kash is going to say, let's make it happen. That's what I'm excited about. I'm largely excited for any potential that Kash, as director of the ATF, actually says, let's relax things a little bit. Apparently, I think it was Brandon Herrera who said this, that the director of the ATF can issue a temporary moratorium on NFAs for machine guns, or he can do a 30-day machine gun amnesty. He has that authority. Oh, boy. And then basically, because like right now, in order to get a machine gun, a fully automatic weapon, it has to be pre-1985, I think. And they're called NFA items, National Firearms Act. It's ridiculous. It's near impossible. And I know a lot of people, they'll say, no, you just file a permit. Oh, trust me. You don't just file a permit. You got to go to the police station. You got to get fingerprinted. You got to do all this crazy stuff. It's ridiculous. It's an infringement on our rights. So let's see. We'll see what Kash has in store over at the ATF. Nick Sorter, we got a little bit before we jump into our super chats here. So don't forget to smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. Become a member of Rumble Premium, especially now with Dan going to work for the government. We need you guys more than ever over at Rumble Premium to watch our members-only content and Crowder's Mug Club, all under one umbrella. Timcastpremium.com. But of course, we have our Discord community where you can hang out with like-minded individuals. And shows are launched there, and people are working on projects together. Over 20,000 people hanging out in our Discord community at timcast.com. Go to timcast.com, click join us, sign up, get involved. We got a couple more minutes, so I'll give you some quick tidbits here. Trump has fired more than 2,000 USAID employees, thousands more on leave. Absolutely amazing. And then we'll show this one. I'm going to do a larger segment on this later in the day, but I'll give a quick highlight. I'm seeing more and more liberals calling for taking things into their own hands. With Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, they're acting like the apocalypse is coming. And they're calling for civil war. Very interesting. Very interesting, right? These people who claimed it wasn't going to happen, it couldn't happen, are now saying, oh boy, it's happening. These people terrify me because they do have the derangement within them to get violent. So I will do a larger segment breaking all of this down and taking a look at the lies of the left and how they're handling all this. In the meantime, I bring that up now only to say, with Kash and Dan running the FBI, maybe we will finally get some accountability for these far leftists who are firebombing buildings. And maybe we'll get some arrests of these criminal elements. We call them the tourists. These far left extremists who travel the country organizing riots and chaos to try and destroy our country. I think those people have fled the country already. Yeah, these are lesser known individuals. Excuse me. But I'm willing to bet the moment Kash got confirmed, we call them the tourists. They were high profile leftists who, for some reason, were at every protest all across the country, helping organize them. In fact, some of them would appear in other countries like Turkey and China. With Dan and Kash getting in, these people have probably already fled the country. So, my friends, share this show with everyone, wherever you are watching or listening on the podcast or any other platform. Sharing is caring. If everybody watching right now shared the show, we'd be the biggest show in the world. Right now, I think we're, if you actually combine the numbers, to be honest, it was fascinating because there's like live stream tracking and rankings. This show ranks one of the highest in the world, the top 50 on Rumble. And on YouTube, it was like number 20. Combine them. Combine the viewership, and I wonder what that really means. It's weird that they do the rankings that way because there's so many different platforms. We're not just live on one. Same thing with Timcast IRL. We could probably just add them up, but we have in one instance, we had 43,000 concurrents last week, which would put us at like in the top 10. So, I just want to say I really do appreciate everybody who supports the show. Dan, of course, is 3 or 4 times larger than that. And that's why it is so deeply inspirational that he's willing to walk away from that. That's crazy. Guys, I got to be honest. I mentioned I had a kid, right? And of course, wouldn't it be so much easier just to settle down, take some cash, live in a van down by the river, not literally, but get a little place in the middle of nowhere with my family and just live the good, calm life, raising my kid and soon to be kids, perhaps. And for me, the limit is, I'm going to do this show. I'm going to talk about what I think is important. I'll do my best to fact check these stories and make sure y'all have good information, the best information, so you can make informed decisions for yourselves. And I don't want to work in government. Dan just went tenfold into the belly of the beast, standing as a guard of this nation, putting himself at such tremendous risk and sacrificing so much. I'm like, man, he's going the other direction. My dream is like, oh boy, retirement's around the corner. Not really, but sooner or later, I'm checking out. You know what I mean? Maybe not. I'm not saying literally. I'm saying for like the average person, we want to find that time where we can spend with our families and focus on what's important to us and not just work all the time. Dan went the other way. Dan was like, I am going to work 10 times harder for the American people and sacrifice everything at great risk to my safety. And I'm like, wow. He's you get it though. Secret Service, right? The Secret Service, they're trained to use their bodies as shields for the president. Tremendous. People were making fun of that Secret Service agent when Trump almost lost his life. And I reject that outright. I said, look, we do need bigger men because their body is the shield. But I respect anybody, man, woman, large, small, who at least will try to use themselves as a shield to protect someone else, to protect this nation. That's who Dan is. Dan is the guy who runs into the burning building. Dan is the guy who stands between the psychopath and the president saying, you got to go through me if you want to get to him. That is what it means to be a man, and that is what we need more of in this country. I hope young people, I hope parents, you explain to your children what it means to be a man, to sacrifice for your community, for your people, for your moral values. Dan embodies that, and I am deeply honored and tremendous respect. I Killed the Ghost once says, Tim, you had Dan on Timcast last year. Indeed. Right. I did meet him. I got to be honest, like, we have so many guests come through here, and like literally every day somebody else. I stop saying nice to meet you and I say good to see you. Because I'm like, yo, I don't, I meet so many people. I was unsure. I didn't want to say I knew Dan, but I'm pretty sure I met him at other places too. Like we go to a bunch of events and stuff like that. But, we'll grab some of your super chats, smash the like button, share the show if you haven't already. Join Rumble Premium. In 5 minutes, I expect all of you to be at rumble.com/Bongino because this is going to be historical, this announcement. It's going to be huge. So watch his show. Cutesy time is over. Let's grab some of your super chats. UP Schutt says, in Germany, we had our general election yesterday, and now I envy the USA even more for having a proper leader. God bless Trump. We're lucky. We really are. We did work hard for it. We did. Pork Chopolis says, congrats, Tim. You'll make a great dad. It was an indescribably emotion I felt the first time I heard my daughter cry when she was born. Oh, yeah. What's really amazing is she's born, she's crying, and, they put her in a little bassinet, a little crib or whatever. And so they make you wait at the hospital for a little while afterwards just to check on everything's okay, and everything was fantastic. And, baby starts crying. And so I just start talking and baby stops crying. And that's really something amazing. Baby just wants to know that you are there. This is what their babies are scared. And I could not imagine when we were there. And Allison is truly a tremendous person and very strong. And I'm very impressed with how hard she's working, how dedicated she is. I truly am very lucky. And I thought to myself, with everything all the work she was going through and everything she was doing, I said, how could there possibly be individuals who would advocate for single motherhood in any way? Or advocate for men not to be married to these women when they are raising families? It is an absurdity. That it takes two parents. But let me tell you. So it was yesterday, and Allison was in bed and she was holding baby, and I came over and we were together and I had my arm around her, and Allison was talking, I talked, and then our baby smiled the first time, and I was like, she's sitting there and she can hear her parents talking and she knows she's safe, and she smiled, and it's truly indescribable, man. It really is. Y'all with kids, you don't need to hear it from me. The people who don't, if you're young, don't wait. Cindy Lou says, congrats to you and your family, and maybe more babies to come. The only thing I'd say is I wish we had them sooner. But, crying about it. You know what I mean? We are who we are. Common Sense Fishing says, hey, Tim, I get you looking at the Dan Bongino, but instead of assuming he's walking away from millions, perhaps he will do both jobs. It's not impossible to do a 9 to 5, then do a show like I do. Trump said he would be giving all of that up. There's no way. There's no way. The issue is Dan's going to have access to privy knowledge and investigations, and information can be given away simply by talking about something. So I don't know how he does both. It is entirely possible. He does do both in some respect. Like he comes in once a week or something and says, I can talk about these issues and give updates. But I really do feel like, because look, I know people who work in government, and I ask them, I'm like, let me put it this way. The way the Trump administration has come in, there are friends of the show we've reached out to saying, if you ever have a time and they say, now that I'm in this agency or that agency, I don't think I can just come out and give these statements. Unfortunately, it's a different environment. And we're like, okay. So it'll be tough. Maybe he does. Maybe he does. Maybe he does. Mizamori says, congratulations on taking delivery of your kiddie pool. Haha. Still need a Philcast logo. Indeed. I will also say, too, everyone was like, you should get a beanie for your baby. They give babies beanies. They give them. All of them. They little hats. Got to keep them warm. And keep them warm. All right. Williams Pena says, congratulations, Tim, LFG, Kash, and Dan. 70 Christians killed in the Congo. 0 mainstream media coverage. Indeed. Now, why is that? I'm pretty sure it's because liberals in this country just hate Christians. That's the weirdest thing to me. It's like, look, there's other fundamentalist religions out there. Christianity, you don't have to be so mad about. In fact, it's really weird because Christianity is actually one of the most tolerant, especially after the Reformation. Indeed. Common Sense Fishing says, if Elon Musk can run Starlink, SpaceX, and X and still run Doge, just a theory, can Dan still run his show? Maybe have a co-host and show up occasionally. Elon is a special government employee. It's different. Guys, it's time for Dan's show, and you got to watch it. So smash the like button, share the show. We got 30, 40,000 people watching. You can smash that like button. And follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. 5 seconds until Dan kicks live. So I'm going to wrap things up. We got more segments coming up throughout the day. I'm interested in seeing what Dan has to say. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all in the next segment.